So on the theme of protecting NRL players in the current climate, how did that incident and the way it was handled on the field wash with you guys?
I thought it was disgraceful. I thought it was gutless. I thought the NRL showed no courage at all. A 2-week penalty for that. I think, we have been talking for some years now about concussion and the safety of the player and the long-term damage caused by knockouts, and yet we see an incident like that, doesn't even get sent off, doesn't even get 10 minutes in the sin bin. He gets a report and he gets a 2-week penalty, and then you get the coach after saying he doesn't see much in it.
It's pretty clear to me that KAUFUSI loads the right elbow.
Absolutely.
He's
been doing it for 2 years.
I saw your column. I saw you drag up the photos.
Well, he did exactly the same thing to Boyd Cordner round 8 at Suncorp last year. Wasn't as bad when he used his elbow in Origin, but he still led with the elbow instead of a palm. Now, this is big for Kenty to be going off about this because you like rugby league rough and tough. It's big, but you know whose fault this is?
It's a cheap shot, Buzz. I don't like cheap shots.
Whose fault is it? I'll tell you whose fault it is. It's not Ashley Klein's. A referee with the pace of the game, the fatigue of the game, can't keep his eye on everything. But that game was stopped. There's a bunker up there with 12 television screens, 2 or 3 people looking at it, and if they couldn't have tipped to him in his earpiece that it was either a sin bin or possibly even a send-off, the bunker's the one that deserves the kick in the backside.
What about the fact that it's a Melbourne Storm, and how much accountability should the club have to wear for the fact that we've been banging on about this? We had a blue about it a couple of years ago.
That's wrestle, mate. That's not wrestle.
No, Buzz, that's learned behaviour. That's an elbow, right? That's a jiu-jitsu move to the head.
Oh, I don't think it's a jiu-jitsu move.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, Hoops. So, I mean, you're not practising to come down on someone's head with your elbow at training. How are you practising that at training? Seriously.
The amount they spend, you want to know how often they spend in jiu-jitsu dojos a week? 3 sessions per week. I'm not saying they practice that every single day. But I'm saying the level of wrestle that they do, that's the sort of thing that is going to creep into the game. I'm not surprised it's happened.
That's ridiculous, Hoops.
No, it's not,
I'm sorry,
You're the chief cheerleader for Melbourne. You have been for years.
I'm the chief cheerleader for Melbourne. I'm the one who blew up on the weekend about
about this incident. And you're trying to say it should be the bunker, not the Storm.
No, you're gone over the top here.
Can I just say how skewed our values have become in this game? Latrell Mitchell makes the lightest of bumps on Daly Cherry Evans, who runs 5 yards and falls over and gets 10 minutes in the sin bin for that. For a professional foul, I'd argue that's a professional foul. That was a deliberate headshot against probably Parramatta's best player at the time, and he doesn't play another minute in the game following that. He should have been sent off. He should be looking at least 6 to 8 weeks. I spoke to Graham Annesley today about it. Graham Annesley has spoken to Jared Maxwell. The bunker is going to get a kick up the backside and told from now on that they must look more seriously at these types of incidents. I spoke to Andrew Abdo today and I said to him, how much longer are you going to continue this charade about talking about player welfare and concussion and yet going minimal on these sorts of incidents? He's told me, thank God, there is a review about to begin in all this. Part of the review is player safety, player welfare, but another part is the actual judicial process, the match review process, and there's going to be a recalibration of penalties because, as Annesley said to me, this was only a grade 2 charge. There's another more serious level than that. And unfortunately, we have seen more serious charges if you go back to, for example, John Hopewadi on Keith Galloway. So there needs to be a higher level than what we saw there. But 2 weeks for that? It is so out of touch.
And I think this is the part of it, right, is there's inconsistencies all over the place between decision and decision from one game to the next, but more importantly, inconsistencies between the messaging coming out of NRL HQ and what they're doing to stamp out this sort of behaviour. Because, I mean, I'll go back to what I said last week, which is on the back page of the Daily Telegraph, Dr. Adrian Cohen calling for a 12-month suspension for what Jesse Ramian did to Matt Duffy, which was a high shot, the back of the head, which to me...
that was a cheap shot as well.
It was a cheap shot and it was high.
That was over the top. As Kenty said, it was a 4 to 6 week penalty, what he did there the other night.
There's one way to guarantee stamping this sort of thing out, and we've seen it time and time again over the years. You just referenced, back in the day, they used Jim Comans to outlaw grubby elements and going too far over the edge. But it's hardline sanctions. It's the only way to handle things. They got rid of to a degree. They've got rid of the dangerous throw. Lifting tackles, which were out of control at one stage, right, have been eradicated because they started whacking them with heavy suspensions.
Well, Kyle Felt 2 weeks for what he did on the weekend in that Cowboys game. You mentioned that Jim Comins, rugby league's been down this path before, and I know this is a sort of a hobby horse for you, but between the 70s and the 80s, rugby league realised it had an image problem because of how the game was played.
Look, you go back, Ben, and rugby league was a suburban game, right? And you go back to this sort of era. Now, when televisions became colour TV, and Kevin Humphreys, who was running the game at the moment, sat down and watched this in colour TV and just thought, you know what? We can't send this into people's homes. So he brought in Jim Comins and he said, mate, clean the game up. So there was 12-month suspensions, 15-month suspensions.
So who was Jim Comins? Was the head of the
Jim
judiciary?
Jim Comins was the chairman of the judiciary. Yep. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and he came in with a heavy hand. He said to Steve Mortimer, one of the cleanest players we've seen, but he got himself in trouble a couple of times. He actually said to Steve Mortimer one day, if I see you back here again, rugby league will be a memory for you. That was his threat to Steve Mortimer. But what he did is he turned, there's Darryl Broman. Les Boyd got
18 months.
18 months. So what happened was they cleaned the game up through penalties. That's what players respond to. All this education rubbish that you carry on with, you just penalise them, because the minute the coach says, mate, I can't have you out for 10 games, 12 games, 14 games, that stuff that we saw on the weekend out of KAUFUSI will disappear.
Can I ask this question? As Jim Comins was going about cleaning up rugby league back then, Buzz, we've still got this level of commentary in the game saying, well, that's a good tackle, you know, the lifting of, you know, Kyle Felt's, when there's a crusher tackle that barely looks to cause injury and they end up on the sidelines. Well, I mean, at the moment there's a backlash. Even the shoulder charge, when it was banned, there's still people who want the shoulder charge brought back.
Well, Jack Bird actually congratulated Kyle Felt for the tackle the other night, didn't he? He lifted
After
him
the
up.
second one, yeah.
Yeah, and it was dangerous, but it wasn't bad. You know, it wasn't bad.
It didn't hurt him.
No, it didn't. But
he got him in a dangerous position.
Yeah, he did.
He got him into a look. It's easy to fix this. Use your bunker more on game day and get tougher with your match review committee.
See,
That's all it takes. It's simple,
been this
Kenty.
con job that the referee, the coaches have performed on the game and the referees, that if you get a player sent off, then you've just lost, you've surrendered all chance for victory. And the minute a player gets sent off and then gets exonerated the judiciary, they blow up and say, well, there's 2 points we lost because you cost us. So the game got scared at that. So started going to this softly approach, putting more on report. But look at Parramatta on the weekend. Ryan Matterson was their best player at the time and just got totally taken out of the game. It just does not make sense. And I am sick of this gutless decision making where they try to please everybody here and there and just make it all softly. Comins changed the game for the better. It was the beginning of the Tina Turner era. The 80s is when rugby league got that athletic reputation. The players were showcases for the game. And then Tina Turner took it to another level. The game is so good. We don't need this in the game. And Abdo today, speaking to me, just said, he said, mate, we want deterrences and we want consequences. So they are looking at it, but they need to rush it through.
You, if KAUFUSI got a month, he would never, ever do that tackle again.
Buzz, I reckon if he got a month, he would have been lucky.
So
the fact he's got 2 weeks.
Is that how we tie this off? We say now for the incidents that are unsavoury in the style of KAUFUSI on Thursday night, that long suspensions are the only thing that's going to fix it, and that's the way the NRL needs to move forward.
Yes.
Because that way you get coaches saying to players, mate, we cannot even get you in this position. Next time you feel your elbow up there, you've got to get it in a safe position. They do so much training these days, they get themselves in safe positions. The one thing that they do not want to risk is players on the sideline.